Hi everyone, I hope you're well. This is going to be a video on some composing techniques on how to spend more time writing and composing and less time getting stuck in your DAW and, trying to create sounds and all that type of stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's really important to spend the time doing that, but sometimes you just want to come in and just crack on and not have to spend ages building sounds that you already love. So I'll show you how to do that. Here we have one of my composing templates. I've got many of them, and this is just it's quite a light one. I say light. I will show you that it has all these colors. It goes up to currently, minus the group tracks at the end, about 54 tracks. So it's quite a lot going on. Looks really tidy at the moment, but if you start expanding all these folders, you'll see there I've got 3 instruments in that one. In basses, I've not got anything in that at the moment. Still in the midst of writing it. But then I've got, all these instruments you can see in the left. Lots of different things going on. So, what is the premise of this video? The idea is, maybe you're using a load of virtual instruments, or you've got a sound or a mix that you absolutely love. How do you then capture that and reuse it? And, you've spent 20-something hours getting this mix sounding how you want to. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm scared of moving away from the mix. Firstly, make it as a template if you really have to. Save it as something else. Scrap all of the audio, the MIDI and everything out of it. And take it back to basics. So if you've got the kick that you love, right, keep that instrument in your mix as part of your template. That's the first and super easy thing you can do. When you get into the realm of having lots of virtual instruments or lots of different elements, I really love writing string compositions and like game soundtracks and all this type of things. So a lot of that is actual vertical orchestration. So you might have a piano line that is just something like, I don't know, let's say A minor into like a sus chord. Really basic, but what we do is that simple chord gets extrapolated across like 4 different octaves. You'll have like an ostinato, they'll be doing like, or it could be something a little bit more moody. It could be all sorts, right? And you build layers and layers and layers. Now, for me, what I end up doing is I've basically found a sound that I love. So what I've done is I've spent about half an hour, 45 minutes, building a project where I've got all the instruments that I love using. So I've got Symphobia here. I've got the Cremona staccato. I've got then like the BBC bits. I've got loads more instruments I could put on this. I've really only just got started, but if I put these on as well. And I can just build layers and layers and layers effortlessly to the point where I could literally come in, hit monitor and record, and then just go. How awesome does that sound, right? It's not even mixed. I swear, it's not even mixed. Look, there is no balancing on any of this. There's nothing. So imagine I spend another couple of hours on this. I start grouping instruments together into buses. I start mixing them and doing all this stuff. Magic. That's the end goal. And I'll document as I go along. But very quickly, rather than me just sitting there with this singular lonely piano trying to make do, I've got the starts of quite a majestic sounding piece there. I've not even done anything yet, and that's where the magic comes in. So how have I done that? Well, as I said, I've got my instruments that I like, and I've grouped them in a way that complements how the instrument itself, so whether it's a virtual instrument or it's a set of sounds or how it's expressed, they're grouped in that order. Let me explain. So all of those instruments in there are part of the rhythm section. That's one way of grouping them. I've put here as rhythm and staccato. So staccato is this idea of, here's something staccato. Really short, quite expressive. You've got staccato, spiccato, pizzicato. There's all these different techniques. Split it down further. Is it short? Is it long? Is it melodic? That's it. So if it's short, wrong note there, but there you go. That's the rhythm staccato-y bits, yeah? Not as short. Next, you've got your sustains. So what's a sustain? Well, if I'm playing something like this, that's the notes are sustained and drawn out. It's the long form notes, okay? I take that one step further and then do something separate with melody and legato. Each of these groups, they're currently in folders. Depending what workstation you're using, you can group them in different ways. You know, in Logic, you'd send all of these instruments then to, let's just find them all there so you can see them. You'd send all of these, whether you're doing it in this fashion or you're doing it in your mix window, you'd group them all like this and then you'd send them to some type of bus. And you can mix them together if you want to, or you can put reverbs on them, compression together. Lots of things you can do. It's really opening up the possibilities there. But the legato bits is something that's unique to how I currently kind of play. So I have a lot of these plugins, such as the Cremona Quartet. Brilliant plugin. If you've not heard of it or got it, I will show you that in a sec. But it's a virtuoso style instrument, which basically it can play anything, so you can do staccato with it, but it does it off key switching, so C1 and then it's like D2, D1, all these things. It will change how it plays. That's both good and really shit, because I can be in the middle of doing something and then suddenly it's playing staccato and it's ruined my performance and my entire vibe, right? So I separate it away so that I go, okay, let's not do that with it, and I'll write something separate for it, or I'll play something separately, okay? So melody and legato in this sense is more like this. It won't let me play, the specific term is polyphonically, which is more than one note at a time, without having some type of programming concern. It's not necessarily a limitation of how it's programmed. It's to do with how expressive it is. So I'll try and show you what I mean. If I play a chord, it's still playing a chord, but it's kind of... The only way to describe it is it's monophonic like a synthesizer, but not quite, because it's not a synthesizer. It's virtual samples, and it's doing all this thing. So if I want to write a lovely melody line with it, well... Now something that's... You might think, alright, well what's the difference between that and sustain then? It's a really good question actually. What is the difference? Well, if I play the Symphobia ones by comparison, if it actually will play, oh, sorry, it's got the incorrect MIDI input there. Let's try that again. There we go. It can do the chords, but the melodic side of it, it's just not quite got the sharp attack or the expressiveness. And it's not necessarily a fault of the programs. It's just how they're made. And so I've built my projects and my templates in a way that works around the flaws or the limitations of the programs in some case, or in a way that helps me write with them better. Yeah, so everyone's unique in terms of how they work, but it's one thing to explore with how you work and what you want to get out of a template. If you just want to be able to whack everything on and hit, I can whack my staccato stuff on there and then just start going wild. I can, but it gets messy very quickly because you've got, in that section I added, there's percussion, some of where the percussion's tied to. There's all sorts of notes. It's great though. If you want to make something that's like really energetic, brilliant, go for it. But be careful with how you build it, because if I built that incorrectly in terms of how I've grouped things and the order of how I've done it, it's not going to let me do that. You know, I just want to be able to click this folder here and then suddenly go, right, here's my staccato. I've spent ages doing that, and it's really simple, but it's took me a while to go, right, let's make this instrument, let's get that sounding how I want it to. So, okay, let's check. It's staccato, I've got 6 layers on here, I've got velocity control. Okay, next instrument, right, I've got the BBC stuff. Let's go on there. Okay, that's spiccato, it's this section. Right, let's look at the next one. Right, that's the other one, that's spiccato. Once you start adding these layers, it's just magical, but it takes time. So that's the thing with it, is everyone is going to spend a different amount of time investing in it, because you're either going to spend loads of time mixing it, or you're going to spend loads of time organising it in a creative way where some of the things I've done, I've got a synthesizer here that's got 4... well, firstly, I can control all my DAW, or my workstation, with my synthesizer. It's a Nordwave 2, brilliant piece of kit. I've got 4 separate volume controllers for 4 separate oscillators. What I can do is I can actually hijack my workstation and have it so that channel 1, or like the first oscillator, only controls the staccato stuff. Channel 2 only controls the sustain stuff, and channel 3, you can do all sorts of things. It really depends on how you work as an individual, as a composer, as a producer, and what you want to do with it. Because I've seen stuff where there's people who can literally just play everything all at once, and they'll have like a split keyboard or some type of really incredible setup, and you're just like, wow, it's really, really impressive. And it all starts with just playing about, preparing your template. If you want to spend hours mixing it all, I mean, as I've said, I'm pretty sure I've said already, but none of this is mixed. So once I've got this mixed, it will sound absolutely interstellar, I can assure you. And, you know, I'll start panning stuff really extreme, because I've got so many different elements. I can put it like extreme left pan, extreme right pan. I can have stuff flying left and right, all these different things. Once I've done all that, you know, I can just sit there and compose for hours on end then, and just focus on actually writing music and not mixing or creating stuff. That's the first big caveat I want to kind of talk about, is if you do end up sitting and making some type of pre-mixed template, brilliant, but be aware that don't just mix it and then not touch it again, unless you want your music to sound quite incestuous. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you want to have, you know, if I'm composing like an album of something, sometimes I'll spend hours making one track, and then I'll make a copy of the track, take all the audio out, and then I've got track 2. And they'll all sound very similar in how they're mixed then. Really great tip for you, freebie. But if you're wanting to sound different with every song, then sometimes you do need to go, right, I've got a composing template here, and then I've got a mixed version. And, you know, sometimes I'll switch between the mixed one and the unmixed one, so that I can kind of come out with a fresh palette and go, oh, actually, I want to change this. Because I can once you've really locked in on a template, you can really just sit there and spend hours writing stuff, like dozens of songs, and go, wow, this sounds phenomenal. Bam, next one. Bam, next one. Before you know it, you're rolling. But then actually, a really important part of composing and writing music, in my opinion, is the sound design aspect of it. So make sure you keep experimenting as you're doing it. Don't just build a template and forget about it. Just update them and then start adding new things or make a new template. And before you know it, you'll have so many different tools in your arsenal that you'll just be like, you can just focus on the fun of writing and playing music then, and not the mixing and everything else that goes with that. So hopefully I've not gone too far with down the rabbit hole of stuff. I love this stuff, and I'm aware my setup is janky, so apologies. But if you'd like to see more videos like this, including how the mixed version of this template sounds, please let me know, and I'll definitely spend some time sharing my journey with you. But yeah, thanks for watching. Take care.